You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 54 of Teach Better Talk. My name is Ray Hewart, but you already knew that. You are excited to know that I am also with the very reliable Jeff Gargas.
Very reliable. I like
reliable.
it.
You are
Very
because
reliable.
you're always here. I just can't get rid of you. You're like a bad penny.
Well, that started positive, but I think it kind of switched. But yeah, I guess.
Well, I really like doing these podcast recordings with you, Jeff, just so you know.
Thanks, Ray. It means a
And
lot.
I always love that I can log onto my computer at the time that's on my calendar and you show up. You're very reliable.
I am very reliable. It's very true.
Well, I wanted to bring up for this episode, this was a different kind of episode for us, Jeff. There was
unique one. Very cool, though.
Very unique. And I like those because while I love having one guest and really diving into their lives and their experience in education, this one has a very special twist, and it focused a lot on student voice. The reason I felt like that was so apparent was because in this episode, we're bringing on two high school students and their two teachers who have designed really purposeful experiences at a high school level with broadcasting. And I think that while that component is very cool, and we talk about that a lot in the episode, there's so much value in the fact that these educators have taken the time to allow their students to work on passion projects and share their voice at the level that they're at.
I was going to say also, Ray, it's literally student voice because they're doing broadcasting and podcasts and stuff.
Yeah. They're literally sharing their voice like
they literally are.
Your voice right now.
Something I want to say, though, that I think that you're going to find as you listen to this episode is the answers that come from these two students were very mature, very thoughtful, very thorough. I was really impressed with their understanding of what they're doing and why it's important for them and their education and what they're doing. These are two juniors here, just one town over from me in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio here, and I was really impressed with the answers that they had, and I loved, and you talk about the student voice and stuff, and their teachers are there and really allow the students to run this podcast episode and to really share their experiences, their thoughts, and it was a fun episode, I thought.
So stepping away from the podcast, because y'all are going to be able to listen to that in a second, we do a lot, Jeff, when we go into school districts or when we're doing our Facebook group lives, talking about how you can implement student voice, student choice in classrooms. And it's funny because while I think this is brought up pretty frequently, I think the term, incorporating choice and incorporating students to, have some ownership in the classroom, vocalizing their needs and all that is heard a lot. I find that a lot of teachers are anxious in actually implementing it. They're not sure how to make the transition.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's absolutely it's sort of you're handing over a little piece of that ownership, and it can be a little intimidating, a little bit scary to do that. So Ray, I know in your class that is totally there. It's the ownership there, the voice and the choice is there. Can you share? When you did it, was there the fear there? Were you hesitant? Was it uncomfortable at first? How'd you get
so
through
when
that?
when I started teaching early in my career, I knew that student voice was important, and I did the easy stuff, right? I would ask students what they wanted. I would take time aside for them to vocalize their concerns or their fears or their ideas or their passion, and I didn't quite see that I had so much room to grow until I connected with Chad Oskowski on our Teach Better team, because I thought that I was incorporating student voice really well. I was in the field. I had been teaching for a few years. I feel like I was building really great relationships. And, my whole story about the Teach Further model of the community being involved. And Chad was actually the one that challenged me to say, but look, Ray, you have so many components that you actually haven't given any student ownership in. And I was like, what are you talking about? I have students that help me with attendance. I have, moments of reflection with them, once a week where they tell me their thoughts, and I ask them, about deadlines, and I always take into considerations their opinions. And he's like, right, but look at just the nitty gritty, the actual instruction piece that hasn't transitioned yet. And so I actually reference a story all the time when he was talking to me about how to give a quiz. I was trying to implement that mastery framework, the grid method, for the first time in my classroom. I had done a few grids, but was still kind of dabbling with some of the hurdles I was running into. And one of the simplest ones, and you're going to laugh, Jeff, I'm super sorry to bring this up, but I couldn't figure out how to give a quiz. I couldn't. I was like, well, they have to come up to me and get the quiz. And Chad's like, why? And I'm like, well, it's a quiz, right? I mean, like, it's this holy grail. I mean, this is like a very serious moment. And I'm like, what if, Chad said, what if they got it on their own? And I was like, no way, absolutely not. That would be ridiculous. What if they went and got their quiz and they looked at the questions and then they realized that they didn't know it, so they put the quiz back, and then they went and learned the information and got the quiz again. And he's like, wow, it seems so terrifying that they would have gone and learned the content. Like, how scary is it that they've mastered the information? And I'm like, oh, I get it now. And so those small changes, the really small pieces that we can ask students, well, how do you want to take a quiz? What makes the most sense? How can I give them more ownership in this experience? Has really transformed my classroom. I appreciate you saying that it's something that you've seen to be a strong element of my classroom. But to be honest, I'm continuously working on what am I doing as the teacher that I can give the students more ownership and voice in. So, man, it's a process.
Yeah. I didn't know. I don't think I knew that story about the quizzes with that conversation, but I'm happy that it's recorded now.
Oh my gosh. I just literally was working with teachers today, and I told that story about the quizzes, and they were giggling at me. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't know that I would have known the answer of handing out a quiz, and now I laugh about it all the time. But I think that element of students having the ability to really have control over their learning is really prevalent in this episode.
Yeah, I do, and big shout out to Alex and Joe, the teachers that are here, and what they've been able to do and what they're building over there. And I think you're going to hear the impact that it's already having, because the program is still fairly new. They're still working on it. They're building it from the ground up, and I think you're going to hear it in the answers that the students give, and what they share, the impact and what that ownership and that voice that they're being given is doing for them, and their just the way they look at their lives now and their learning and what they're planning to do and stuff. So it's really exciting. So with that said, what do you say, Ray? Let's get into the episode.
Let's do it.
All right, so we've got an interesting episode today for episode 54, and we got two teachers with us. We got Mr. Alex Oris, Mr. Joe Nowak, but we also have two high school students from Cuyahoga Falls High School, Ohio. That's right by me here in the Akron, Ohio area. We got Noah and DJ chatting with us today, and they've got some cool stuff going on in their high school. They are dabbling in the broadcast and podcasting world, so we wanted to have a conversation with them, get a little bit different viewpoint for all of you listeners. So we're going to be chatting with them. So first and foremost, I got to ask you, Noah and DJ, thanks for coming on and hanging out with us in your morning before you get ready to go to all your classes and stuff, and chatting with us a little bit. How are you guys feeling today?
Oh, I'm feeling great. Thanks for having us, Mr. Gargis.
Absolutely. Mr. Gargis is my father. You can call me Jeff.
All right, I'll call you Jeff.
You can tell he's in school because he's got to use the Mr. Gargis thing, like the teacher thing. I love it. So.
Has anyone ever called you that, Mr. Gargis?
Yeah.
Is that new for you?
Yes. People call me that quite a bit. With kids,
Wow.
you start getting Mr. Gargis stuff. It makes you feel extremely old.
Well, you are kind of old. We're talking to high schoolers.
Yeah. So that was Noah and DJ. How are you feeling, man?
I'm also feeling okay today. How are you feeling today?
Good. Can you guys give us really quick, like about 10 seconds, what grade level are you in, and like what activities are you in outside of school? Like any sports, any band, anything like that, real quick.
Okay, well, I'm DJ and I do broadcasting, but I'm also in theater. I'm in all the choirs here at CFHS, and I'm an 11th grader.
Nice.
I am also in 11th grade, and I'm in this broadcasting class, and I also do theater.
Nice. Okay, great.
You guys are my kind of people. I did all like choir, theater, music stuff in high school. That's awesome.
It's the best.
Well, I want to take a minute and talk about your school. You know, Jeff provided a little introduction on you, but how do you describe the school that you're currently within?
I definitely think that Cuyahoga Falls is like it's a school that has a lot of heart and talent, but it just hasn't been able to be showcased yet. Personally, I think it has a lot of talent, but it needs to be accessed somehow.
Yeah, and really, there's a lot of things that could be lit out a lot more in this high school. Really, like this broadcast cast even is just on there, but there's nothing for it though.
Do you want to see those gaps filled in?
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about the broadcasting. So can you tell us, and you guys Mr. Oris, you may have to jump in, or Mr. Nowak, but do you guys so tell us about the class, like what is it that you're dabbling in? How's it going so far? How did it get started from your viewpoint? And then do you feel like that is something that you can help, like are you going to be able to fill those gaps? What's the plan right now for that?
Well, right now, currently, me and Noah are in the second broadcasting class that is being offered here. And that class is where we hang out basically in the studio for the whole period, and we record our shows to pump out on 96.1 WCFI, the local station here at Akron. But like the first class, which I'll let Noah kind of describe.
Oh boy, that first class was basically dabbling in more of a like they went over story talk shows and all that stuff, like from the older, not just all this music stuff that's actually going now. And they also went over the basis of radio and what radio is, and where it came from, where it originated.
And what we're kind of trying to do right now to expand is I've been talking to a lot of the other programs here at CFHS, kind of a I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of thing. Just trying to see if we can advertise for each other through different ways, and eventually be able to expand the broadcasting class in hopes that we're able to get more students to join and do what we do.
Awesome. So like what are some of the different groups that you're reaching out to that you're talking, and have any of them agreed to do like I scratch your back, you scratch mine?
Yeah.
Like trade off? Like who's working with you? Who you've been able to work things out with?
Right now, I'm working with a group called DECA, which is sort of like an advertising, like business kind of group here at CFHS. And they do this thing. They sell a lot of like products like pins and stuff like that. So I was thinking, and they have agreed to try to figure out something where we could advertise for each other. But what I was thinking is we could maybe have them sell pins of our radio show logos,
Nice.
and on the other hand, we can put on commercials for them on the radio.
I love it. So you're dabbling a little bit. It's not just about broadcast, but also you're touching a lot into the world of business and building those relationships and thinking outside the box and coming up with ideas and stuff. So I love that. That's really, really cool. So let's talk. Can you guys each give us maybe like just one or two of the biggest things that you've kind of taken away from the class and this experience so far?
Definitely something that I've taken away from the class is just you learn a lot of stuff about broadcasting, but I think the thing that I've learned the most is being able to stretch the mind of stretch the band of creativity to able to add more things to your show every week.
And also, with this, you can even like take part in voice acting, which is actually a thing that I'm actually part of, and you can even make your own story to get that out, or just even music they want to listen to and what maybe other people want to listen to.
Gotcha. So can you guys give us a rundown of the shows that you're doing right now, that you're producing right now?
I'm actually currently writing a story podcast in my own time, and in the meantime, I'm actually doing a music show.
How's your music show set up? Are you just playing tracks and talking a little bit about them over top or beforehand, like introducing them, or how are you doing that?
Right now, it's mainly just introducing them,
okay,
because these are some of the bigger artists, some of the smaller artists even.
Yeah.
To try to get those out so that people can actually hear them.
The show that I'm running is I'm a big fan of sports. So I run a show called DJ Hot Take, where every week I talk about the biggest news in sports, and I play an assortment of music along with that as well.
Gotcha. And are you interviewing athletes in your school or coaches or anything like that right now, or have you been doing that type of
I
stuff?
have interviewed a few, actually. I have interviewed a couple coaches in my time, and I've also interviewed a few of the players as well to get their own perspectives on the show.
Hey guys, we're going to step away from this episode for just a second for me to remind you that you have a story to share. Our Teach Better conference happening November 8th and 9th is all about teachers sharing the stories of their classroom. Head over to teachbetterconference.com, submit a proposal so that you can share your story with all of us this November. Let's get back to the episode.
So let's talk. So like it's a newer thing. I mean, we've heard of classes like this or programs like this here and there around the country, but this is definitely the first, I think, in this area by far. Kind of a newer thing, a cool like exploratory idea that you guys are running with. So can you talk about some of the challenges that you guys have faced so far? Like what has come up that's really made it tough to do what you're trying to do with the shows and the class, and then what have those challenges taught you? What have you learned from all that?
I think one of the challenges for me, especially with talking about sports on the radio and playing music, is just kind of accepting who I want to be and who I want to show, like the persona I want to show on the radio. And it took me a little bit, but I was able to produce a balance between what I think the audience wants to hear and what I want to talk about.
And also, one of the greatest challenges for me may have been like the timing, and so that's why I usually come in after school to actually record.
So you're coming in after school to get your stuff in, or is that what you were saying?
Yeah. We only have a limited amount of time in class periods, so we sometimes we do have to come in earlier in the morning or after school to pump out our shows of how, and not only with the time constraints, but how we want the quality of the show to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, guys, something I love, it's come across very evidently in this episode so far, is this mentality that you see in high schools where students really get to be immersed in real experiences where they get to be creative and produce a product. And I wish that all of our teachers, whether you teach, third grade or seventh grade, and I wish that this dribbled down into all of our school system where we weren't just completing projects for the sake of, accomplishing a task, but allowing students to dabble in concepts that they are passionate about and be willing to put in the time, just like you just said, come in early, stay late, and really commit the time to producing something they're proud of. And so that really makes question 4 relevant for our podcast. Is we talk to teachers all the time on Teach Better Talk, but we don't really get to hear that student perspective. So it really makes this episode special. But this is kind of like your chance. I want to know, what do your teachers need to know from you? What do you wish teachers knew about students so they can be more successful?
I think that teachers actually really need to know is that each student learns differently. Because that's why how they had this den stuff, so that we got the teacher that would be better for the student or like the group of students. So just to actually get all that creativity in them to actually put that on paper or just understand that kids learn differently.
Yeah, definitely to build off of what Noah said, creativity is a huge part of especially our generation, I believe. And when we're able to put our own creative minds into school projects, it only makes learning more fun, but it also makes the subject even easier to learn.
Ray, I love that they mentioned, well, one, that every student learns differently, because we actually talk about that all the time and preach on that and teach on that. But also, I want to touch, I love that you guys mentioned the creativity, because I don't know if you've listened to the episode when we had Mr. Oris on, but that's we ended up titled the episode was moving to be creators, and that was really built off the fact of a lot of stuff that he's seen in both of you and a lot of your colleagues, and the creativity and the change that's happened and stuff. So I love that you guys are aware of that and have seen that and understand that's good, and I think that's very valuable for everyone listening. So appreciate you guys sharing that.
Well, and Jeff, I know that we've been able to talk to a lot of teachers about this, but
Mhm.
some teachers are always, they're concerned that by allowing students to be creative, that they no longer have control over the classroom. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really important point for our listeners, our educators that are listening to our podcast, a part of this family, that there are ways to give students choice and the ability to be creative in a way that is still managed well as a successful teacher and using best practice. I mean, that's essentially what Jeff and I, that's what we've been able to talk through a lot with the Teach Better team, is how can you manage freedom, right?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Hey, and Jeff, let me jump in here. This is Alex. I think it's great when we talk about creativity with our students, and we should add leadership, because we're 10 minutes into this recording, and this is the first time either Joe or I have had a chance to say anything because these two guys are leading the conversation, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you guys could probably just leave the room. I think they've got it.
Right.
So let me ask you that though. Is Joe in the room now?
He is.
Mr. Nowak, hey man, it's awesome, great. Glad
Great,
I know you were taking attendance because you guys have a million things going on there, so that's why we really appreciate your time. So I want to ask, as the two teachers involved heavily in this, listening to these guys talk right now, and I've been impressed with just their answers and their just the clarity, everything how they speak, and handle themselves so far. Can you look back when they first started in this? Have you seen the change? Has that been one of the growths that you've seen? Is there anything you want to share with that's got you guys just feeling super proud? I have to imagine you are. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, but having talked with Alex a few times, I know that he is, and Joe, I believe you are as well. But can you guys kind of give us the rundown of like how you're feeling with the program you got going on, and you have students like this? Because I know there are two that are really rocking it out, but there's also a lot of other students in that class. So what are some of the changes and the growth that this creativity in this class has shown in the students that you guys have noticed?
Well, I think first off, Noah and DJ are very good representatives of the overall program. And from a growth standpoint, it's noticeable, almost every week in terms of the shows and the products that are being produced from the standpoint of just a comfort level, a confidence level that you hear and that you are able to understand. I guess from a show production standpoint, it's a great representation, I think, of what you want, hopefully all your kids to be able to do, and that's, be better by the time they're out of whatever program that they're in. And I think, like I said, Noah and DJ have done a great job taking ownership of their material and really doing everything they can to do as well as they can. So the hope is and the goal is to try and get even better. With some of the things that are planned for next year, we've been able to get the go ahead to add a couple different courses to our broadcasting program here, from the standpoint of giving the kids even more hands-on opportunities.
Nice.
To do more, with their senior year. With the hope or the culmination possibly even being sort of like, in almost like an internship, the second semester of their senior year, where the kids have the chance to go out and, get even more hands-on opportunities, for in an actual broadcasting or an actual radio station setting.
No, that sounds fabulous. I think the more often we can get our students into our communities or bring our communities into our schools, you're really not only bridging a gap between two separate kind of institutions, but you're also creating the authenticity and why we have broadcasting class in high school, right? We do that so we can have our students dabble with something that they may eventually go into and really affect our communities with.
And Ray, real quick, let me be clear that this is Alex again. Joe is our lead at the high school, and he's developed this program over the last few years and really built something special for our future. And when you mentioned bridging, that's really what I'm trying to do, because I work predominantly with the middle school students. So at the middle school, we're trying to start some basic skills of, broadcasting, speech, using some tech tools, kind of like we talked about in episode 43? Has it been that long ago?
It might have been. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was 43. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So really, my goal is just to bridge. We're trying to get some middle school students ready for this program so we can build the program organically. And we've had like our robotics club at the middle school do a little commercial. We had our recycling team put out like a PSA. We're trying to do more and more and include even like, short story writing. If we can get to the elementary, do a short story writing and have those kids read it.
Well, and that's that other component we were talking about earlier is not just bridging a gap for our students to be successful leaders in our community, but how then do we have that trickle down into classrooms that aren't at the secondary level that can really use those real world applications rather than this idea of a project, but actually producing something that benefits, others, which is fantastic. Well, I guess I want to ask both of you, first we could start with our educators and then maybe to our students, but I want to hear what advice you would give to a school or what advice you would give to a teacher that wants to start a broadcasting program.
I think you have to, first off, have access to resources to allow that to happen. Maybe that states the obvious, but that's a continued goal of ours here at Cuyahoga Falls, is the idea of being able to increase the amount of technology and the resources we have to allow the program to grow. So, I think you have to, again, have a connection to the various components of a technology-based program like this, and obviously maybe that's, like I said, stating the obvious, but I think even more so, you have to have, I guess, a comfort level in being able to, and you mentioned this earlier, give up a sense of control, because it should be a program that's, student focused and understand that, I think when that control in some sense is relinquished, the overall product from the kids gets even better over time, and you also have at the same time more kids buying into what you're doing, and in some sense you end up with even more of a control over what takes place. So it's it's a situation where definitely you need the resources to happen, but at the same time those resources and the kids in your program can make your overall program grow even more. So coupled with that, I think it's a program that allows a number of different skills that can be taught. So you have to have, I guess, some background in being able to understand, what makes good writing. How do you produce things technologically? How can you interview well? It's a wide component of a wide range of different components, I should say, that the program takes into account. So, without a doubt, I hope that our kids have enjoyed or benefited from being on the air, but at the same time, realize the amount of skills that they are building and demonstrating, being able to produce and edit and speak well and be consistent with their work, and that's been a huge, I guess, positive of mine that we've taken out of it. Like you mentioned earlier, the growth that's taken place, I think that growth has sort of occurred organically, and at the same time, it's something that just continues to develop over time.
This is my first year just kind of supporting, and the partnerships that not only that they had, but also that we're trying to add have been so key. So having the partnership with the community that has a FM radio station where these guys can publish content and people can hear it weekly if they tune in. But then also the partnerships that they can develop around their own school. So Dustin already mentioned the DECA program. We have a video broadcasting class too that we're trying to partner with, and they do morning announcements. We're going to try to get their morning announcements audio recorded and added into this program's or this group's programs. And you've got all other sorts of the sports teams and the drama club. And then, we haven't been naive. We've reached out to local experts like Mr. Gargis came and spoke, Jeff, right?
I
He
did.
came and spoke to our class. I think the group's been on a field trip to, local radio stations, and we've reached out to some universities. So I think the partnership aspect can't be understated in order to help it grow and help it succeed. And it's authentic.
Alex, is that you asking if I can come in and talk at your school? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I hear you might be in the area in November.
Oh yeah, November 8th and 9th, I think. We'll talk about that a little later.
Let's have some fun, guys. I want to turn this just to Noah and DJ, and we're gonna try and challenge you guys here. So I'm gonna ask 6 questions. We're gonna try to do this rapid fire. You're gonna try and answer in 15 seconds or less. Now we're gonna give you guys a total of 30 seconds because I want you to each go back and forth. So you guys need to give each other a nod. Who's going first? Who's going second? We're gonna try to answer these in 15 seconds or less. I want you to know that when Mr. Oris was on, he rocked out this part. So you guys have some. A bar to reach up to and to try and live up to here. So are you guys ready to roll?
All right, I'm hyped. Let's do it.
All right, here we go. So what's one piece of technology that you just cannot live without?
Probably my phone for music.
My phone as well.
I figured you guys would go there. So what's better, in your guys' opinion, books, movies, or podcasts?
Podcasts.
Movies.
Okay, so now based on that answer, give us your favorite book or I'm sorry, your favorite movie or podcast based on what you answered before.
Welcome Night Vale.
My favorite movie is probably The Titanic.
What was the favorite podcast?
Welcome to Night Vale.
Wow, gotcha. Great. So tell us, we're old folks, we're teachers and, parents and stuff. So we're not hip like you guys are. And the fact that I use the word hip is probably a clear sign of that. So I'm interested. This is like a research piece for me. What's the hottest new app or social media platform that you guys and all your friends are on?
I use Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely Twitter, but not only just for like social media, but being able to expand our businesses.
Love it. I love that answer. So Twitter is that your go-to that you're?
Yeah,
you're
Twitter right now is my go-to.
Awesome, love it. So, all right, this is a fun one. Have you ever listened to anything on a cassette tape? And more importantly, do you even know what a cassette tape is?
I actually have listened to a lot of stuff on cassette tapes. I actually do have some in my house.
Nice, love it.
I definitely do know what a cassette tape is. But the last time I listened to one, I don't know. It might have been a while.
Jeff,
Gotcha.
I think they're lying to you. I don't even know what a cassette tape
I was gonna say Ray might not even know what it is.
Yeah. What is that the thing that you put the pencil in and twist it?
Ray, go home. Yes, that is the thing that you put the pencil in and twist it. You're absolutely right. Love it. Ray, you may not even be familiar with the compact disc, as they called them. That's funny. So, all right, last one, guys, and I killed the time, so don't worry about the time on this point. But I really want to know where you're at. You're in your 11th year of school and stuff like that. So, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh man, that's a pretty good one. The best piece of advice that I've ever been given is definitely sometimes the best way to handle scenarios is to not do anything about it. And I know that seems kind of weird, but you should always consider that option. Because maybe just letting things ride out might be the best thing to do.
That's stellar. I love that. What's the other one over there?
Mine's actually from a movie. It's really, when stuff happens to you, keep that in the past. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is the present. Today is a gift, so that's why it's called the present.
Yeah, I love that one. Yesterday's history, tomorrow is a mystery. Today is the gift. That's why they call it the present. I'm trying to think of what that's got. There's actually a book called The Present that talks about that too.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on the title. I think that's what it's called, and it's a really cool story in there. So that's awesome, guys. Appreciate that. Great advice.
Well, I might have the most important question of our entire recording, and that is how people can connect with you. I know, gentlemen, I don't even know that we're connected yet, but I can tell you that the moment we log off of this podcast recording, I'm about to go follow all of these social medias you have listed. So would you mind giving our listeners some details on how they can not only connect with you guys, but also the program and your amazing educators?
To connect with our program here at Sioux Falls, we have a website that's literally siouxfalls.org. It has almost all the information that you will ever need from our teachers and what's going on at the school district. But to connect to me, DJ, personally, I have a Instagram. It's Dustin.330. And I also have a Twitter for my show, DJ Hot Take. That is at DJ Hot Take 1 with no spaces.
Noah?
I actually do also on Instagram. My personal one is snake._.pit. And I also have a Twitter for my show, but that's Strider, and I forget all the numbers to it.
Well, make sure you get that to me. I'll include it over in the notes.
Yeah,
there.
I'll probably send it to Mr. Oris, and then he could probably send that to you.
Yep. We'll make sure it's on there. And you know that you can get all that information over in the show notes at teachbetter.com. So I'll make sure I have all the correct stuff so you can get connected, learn about the shows that these guys are putting on, and connect we'll get Mr. Oris on there and Mr. Nowak as well. So anyone who's listening can connect with him and have the conversations, keep that conversation going. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. Make sure you give us a rating review over there. And do me a big favor. We are trying to share these stories. Think of 1 or 2 or 10 of your colleagues, your friends, your family that need to hear the stories that we're sharing on Teach Better Talk. Share this podcast with them. It means the world to me. It means the world to Ray. We really appreciate it. Noah, DJ, Mr. Oris, Mr. Noah, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day before getting into the school today and chatting with us. We really, truly appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thanks
for having us.
And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.